So this is my second time having to record my thoughts on this one, as the original pre-record from StreamYard was kind of...
What's he gonna do now?
I don't think he plans that far ahead.
And I think I'd cover my ears if I were you.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones reviews, and this is going to be my review of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, since that I've covered the original trilogy, when I reviewed all 5 of these together in that exact same stream, it's time to go back and talk about the most divisive one besides the recent one. So Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was released in 2008. This was directed by Steven Spielberg from a screenplay by David Koepp, based on the story by George Lucas and Jeff Nathanson, and starred Harrison Ford once again as the title character, with the returning Karen Allen. You have Cate Blanchett, Shia La Beouf, Ray Winstone, John Hurt, and Jim Vardaves. And how this one came to be is that after the trilogy ended in the last movie, and originally in 1979, they made, Spielberg and Lucas, they made a 5-movie deal initially, but George Lucas, he let the series end after The Last Crusade, as he felt he could not think of a good plot device to drive the next movie. So what happened was, he chose to produce a prequel to the TV series. And so what happened was, years after years went by, and so many years after The Last Crusade, like 18 to 19 years, they once again was able to find a story for this, and once again they wrote multiple different drafts before the one draft by David Koepp satisfied the producers. And this one, they wanted to pay homage to sci-fi B movies of the 50s. Then again, you had, once again, Harrison Ford and Karen Allen turning back, and then you had Shia La Beouf, who was going to join this, which this was at the height of his career when this and the first Transformers came out, and Eagle Eye, of course. They started filming in 2007, and then they maintained continuity, so they rely on traditional stunt work despite the age of Harrison Ford, which he was 63 at the time. The cinematographer Janusz Kaminski studied Douglas Solokhombe's style from the previous films. This movie was released in 2008 to generally positive reviews initially, but over the years it's gotten mixed to positive reviews, especially from audiences. Some say this is one of the most disappointing movies ever. Some say this is one of the worst movies of all time. And it made great money. It was the second highest grossing film in 2008, almost beating The Dark Knight. So, how is this movie in the franchise? And also, this was the last film to be released by Paramount, as Disney would take over with Dial of Destiny. And so these two worked together for that one, and Spielberg and Lucas stayed on as executive producers. How do I overall feel about this movie now in 2024, even though I did review this in 2023 and rewatched it? How do I feel about this now since I watched it 10 years ago in 2013? Let's go into it. The premise of this movie is we follow Indiana Jones, the famous archaeologist at the height of the Cold War, returning from his latest adventure, and he finds out about his job at Marshall College and is in jeopardy. He meets Mutt Williams, who is a young man who wants Indy to help find the legendary Crystal Skull of Akator, and they set out for Peru with the help of an old flame. However, deadly agent Irina Spalko is searching for the powerful artifact too, because the Soviets believe that it can help them conquer the world. How do I feel about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? I still quite get some enjoyment out of this. I guess you could say this might be a guilty pleasure. I feel like the best way to go into this is I want to go into what I don't like here first. Because this is honestly not that bad of a movie. First off, we're going to go into the issues I don't like here. One, I feel like the story and the script is not as grand and is not as amazing as its predecessors. It definitely does pale in comparison to it. And it's not really that bad of a story. I just feel like some of the execution in here, you can tell that this is, because it's years later, it's not the same touch. But overall, I will say for the most part, in terms of the story, could have been written a little bit better. The script is entertaining though. I just think some of it could have been a little bit better in terms of what you could go with. Also, I think the gophers and the monkeys, yeah, a little bit too much there. I will also say it does go in that B-movie territory that, while it's interesting enough, I definitely can understand why so many people think this is a bad idea. So that is not much there that you can go on there. And also, I say the whole nuke the fridge thing, that is absurd. That I cannot defend that. That is far too absurd. I think that is way too much. And I think that is just overdoing it. And some of the CG aliens, some of the CG a little over glossy, but I will say the CG aliens is the biggest distraction. I think that is completely out there and it's not really going into its full effort as it should have. It could have been better. And Max as a character here is not the best character. I feel like this is one of the biggest issues in terms of the movie and in terms of the story. I feel like that should have been done a hell of a lot better in terms of it. I don't like the fact that he changes allegiances more than once. It's pretty much Pirates of the Caribbean 3 all over again.
I don't want to understand it!
Some draggy pacing in the beginning and a little in the middle. But other than that, those are only the real issues I have when it comes to this. Because I would be lying if I say I didn't enjoy this movie. Things for me to like in this. One, the direction here. While it's not as brutal or as intense as the first three films, I think the direction here is still pretty damn good for what they have to work with here. I will also say there's some great stunt work and some great practicality work at times here. Especially with Harrison Ford doing as much of the stunts as possible. This is him in his 60s, so he's not going to be able to do every single practical stunt himself. But overall, I do think he does the best he can in terms of the practical stunts, a lot of the practical stuff that is required of him. I will say he still maintains a lot of awesomeness here as Indiana Jones. I think he's very fun in here. Cate Blanchett is a fun villain in Spalko, also very attractive. It's Cate Blanchett. Just get used to it, alright? It's Cate Blanchett. Also, I definitely really admire the fact that they brought Karen Allen back into this. They brought her back into the film and as Marion Ravenwood, and I quite enjoyed her. I thought she did a great job in terms of what you could do, and they let her get involved in the action. She still has the spunkiness here, she still has a lot of fun, and she's still the best Indiana Jones girl by a long shot. Still fun, spunky, and beautiful. Also, you have, of course, Marion Ravenwood's son, Shia La Beouf. I don't mind Shia La Beouf in this. This was him at the height of Transformers. I know he's kind of crazy and all that now, But back then, he was good in this. He was good in this. Between this and the Transformers movies, I thought it was pretty good. I also really like the score by John Williams. It's a great score. Not as great as the first three, but I think it's great enough. The technical aspects, like the production and costume design, is very well done. I love all of that. And the editing, the movie is well paced. 2 hours and 2 minutes. Aside from a few moments of boredom here, I like the production design, the era and the field that we go on. I like that part of things. And I really enjoy the performances. Once again, I love the performances in this movie. You have some very good performances in here from the rest of the cast. Jim Broadbent, I thought he's very good. Once again, he does a fantastic job, as always. Ray Winstone, despite how I feel about the character, I do like the performance. John Hurt as Ox, he was entertaining. May he rest in peace as well. You also have Neil Flynn and Joel Stoffer as some few cameos. And then Ernie Reyes Jr. and Chet Hanks, of course. You had, originally Sean Connery was going to turn down in the offer, was going to come back to cameo as Dr. Henry Jones, but he felt like in this movie, there was nothing else for him to do, and he found retirement too enjoyable. And also, John Rhys Davies was going to come back, but he turned it down because he felt like he should have a more substantial role. And this is not the first time you see Denholm Elliott, of course. They do address the absence of both characters of Marcus and Henry Sr., that they died before the film's events. If you can ignore the issues and not compare it to the original trilogy, on its own, it's just still a very fun film. So, those are my negatives, those are my cons. Not much I'm in the mixed about. Conclusion. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is entertaining enough. It's one of the most underappreciated films. I strongly think is very underappreciated. And while the movie's not perfect, it definitely has its issues, it definitely has its flaws, it definitely has some CGI issues such. I think there's a lot more good than bad when it comes to this. It still has some entertaining factors, and I still find it underrated. So, I'm gonna give this an Epictastic.
Well, that's going to do it for the video that you just watched. If you want to see more, my channel icon is up here. If you want to see more content from me, all my social medias are right here in this end card. I will also leave a playlist and a video here for you to see what the channel is about. As always, acknowledge me, stay Epictastic, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.